Alrighty. I'm done a little early, so we're gonna start off early then. There we go. Hello, everybody. Let me pull you in just a little bit. There we go. Get my arm back. Hello. Yeah. So it's time for another lunchtime with Lester. Today on the menu, we have two sandwiches, one with cheese and one with I don't know what that's called in English actually, but it's basically meat. Welke wil je eerst? Wil je kaas of wil je grillworst? Kaas? He's such a happy little fellow. This morning he was very busy, playing a lot, running around the room. I'm kind of tired at the moment actually, because I've been playing with him since like 7 a.m. So I'm glad I can sit down for a second. I hope the microphone is not picking up all the music too loud. I believe it's okay, right? But do let me know if it isn't. Again. Ja, krijg je een beetje weg. Kaas. So it is actually a very blissful day today. Like the weather is not that nice, like the sun isn't out, but it's not particularly cold, it's not raining. I guess it's a nice day today. And I just got in the groceries as well, which is always good because then you have fresh produce in the house, and that always makes me happy. So. Ga je klappen? Ja? Ga je klappen zo? Happy? Doe mezelf. Goed jongen. Goed zo. Dat is wel lekker zo, hè? Maar Happy? Thank you.
Klappen.
Klappen? Gaan we klappen? Dat is goed hoor. Papa ook klappen zo. close. Dan ga je tikken op de tafel zo.
Oh. Kaas?
Kaas? Ja.
Appels.
Wie worst?
Appels.
Worst? Dat mag ook wel. Ja? Zo. Oh, there we go. Dankjewel. He loves making music. Weer droppen. Happy? Dankjewel. En klappen. He's so adorable, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, that's another game that he knows, by the way. Here, watch. Hey, Esther. So? He tries to do the same thing. Isn't that adorable? Happy? Nee. Hey, laat je van mijn bureau even zo. Wil je worst of wil je kaas? Worst of kaas?
Ja.
Welke? Kaas?
Kaas.
Kaas? Such a relaxing day today. Rustig aan. Wat ben je nou aan het doen? Apoe. 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 Ah, he's so adorable. Happy? So blissful. Oh, hang on. That might be something important. Oh, but it isn't though. Alright. Happy? Heeft papa zijn oor? Boom. Boing. Okay.
Gaat dit eruit?
Ja, andere oren. Boing. Ik kan. Boing, 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 boing. Wat ben je aan het doen net? Nee, wat ben je aan het doen net? Doe dat, hartjes. Hartjes. Ja. En papa's haar. En papa's oor. En waar zijn jouw oortjes? Ja. Kaas? Kaas? Worst. Oh, kaas. Nee, dat is ook goed. Rustig aan.
Dikke.
Dikke? Noem je je vader nou een dikke?
Dikke.
Oh, je drinken? Oh. Moet wel zeggen, jongen. Dat kan ook. Rustig aan. Oh. Ga je helemaal drinken? Oh. Ga je gang. Bijna op, hè? Een beetje. Even naar papa. Op.
Eentje.
Zie. Zo. Jazeker. He's such an adorable little boy. Hi Lester, hello Iso, how are you? Hey, ga je zwaaien? Weet je wel?
Appie.
Ga je zo zwaaien zo? Hallo?
Dikke.
Nee? He's not in a waving mood at the moment, you have to forgive him. You're sure an adorable boy, Papa. Les is pretty cute too. Thank you, Iso. Hey, happy? Grote jongen. Dankjewel. Yeah, I always do enjoy like the little Wednesday lunch screams. They're kind of short. Yeah. They're kind of short, but it's just, you know, nice and wholesome to just have a bit of a lunch. And I like streaming it because, you know, he's adorable. Bien doen. Papa's oor. Papa's oor. Yep. Boing. Boing. Ja. En waar is jouw oor? Waar is jouw oortje? Ja. Dat is jouw oor. Boing. I'm up earlier than usual to clean my kitchen before work. Gotta cook pies after. Really? What kind of pies? And why? Like, I mean, you don't need a reason for pie. Any reason is good, but any particular reason?
Break.
Big. Me? Me? Apu. Here. Pecan and pumpkin, cooking them for Thanksgiving, of course. I keep forgetting that. You have to forgive me. Like, you know, I do try to keep in mind the fact that Thanksgiving is upcoming. But I do tend to forget for the simple reason that, you know, I'm not American. That's nice, though. I would love to experience a Thanksgiving dinner at some point. Maybe somewhere in the future I might. I do have my best friend is actually American, so I can imagine that might happen at some point. Because it's very American, and for me that's very like other culturally. It's not really a word, is it? But yeah, it's different, you know. So I would love to experience that at some point. Happy? Zo, gaat het? Oh, zo. As Americans and our imperialist celebrations. Well, I mean, holidays transition, right? We have a holiday over here that is currently in transition as well, which is called Sinterklaas. As you might notice, the name Sinterklaas is very close to Santa Claus. And Sinterklaas is actually the basis for the American version of Santa Claus. So it is the older tradition of the two. However, there are some racist components to it, if you will, which nowadays are starting to dissipate, which I think is a good thing. But that just goes to show that traditions are you know, changing. And like Christmas originally, of course, was a Christian holiday to celebrate the birth of Jesus and all that. And nowadays we celebrate the fact that we can be together with family and you know, just have family time. So that's a transition, and I believe that Thanksgiving is the same thing. Like, I understand where it's coming from, but nowadays it's getting together with family and friends and eat yourself half into a heart attack. But you know, it's being together, and I think that's a good reason to celebrate. You know, even though the basis of Thanksgiving might not have been the best one, but that's what like, you know, different times. DWDW123DW, that's an interesting username. Welcome to the family. Thank you for following.
There you go.
And I believe that brings us to 498 followers. Oh my. Can you roll your eyes back and make them look fully white like The Undertaker? I'm a WWE fan. that explains. Roll back and make them white like The Undertaker. Like, no, I can't. I never really tried that. Wow. In the category of, have you ever tried this? No, I didn't. Unless, like, you know, unless I use my hands and like, do that or something, but... Happy? Happy? Is that the first question you always get, Papa? Well, it's either that or... No, actually, the first question I usually... It depends on which game I'm playing. If I'm playing anything like Dead by Daylight, usually the first question is, why are you such an asshole? Because that's part of the game, apparently. If I'm not playing Dead by Daylight, usually one of the first comments I get is either about the mustache, that's a thing, or... I do get a question why my username contains Papa a lot. That's a question I get a lot. Happy? Joh, nog even eten? Nee. Kijk eens. I streamed from work at the lab the other day, and I got all the Breaking Bad jokes, which is fair because I'm in New Mexico. I mean, you know, that fits in too well. Like, but at the lab, so you don't work with chemicals, right? I mean, you work with like you're more on the mathematical side of things, right? Or are you actually on the experimental side too? I mean, I can imagine if you're in a lab, it might surround you still, even though maybe you don't work with it, but... Zit je naar te kijken? Hé? Wie jij dan? Ga je ook zo, ga je zo zwaaien, zo zwaaien? Een hapje. Jongen. Small amounts of methanol, it's analytical, so sample analysis. Okay. But that still warrants that you have stuff around you. That day I was doing very delicate maintenance of an expensive machine, so I thought I would make a good clip if I screwed it up. I can imagine so too, yeah. Like, it's still, like, it's interesting to see it succeeding too, but yeah, if that would have blown up or something, then... You might have just hit, like, the clip of the week on Twitch with that. Yeah. Good call. And also, like, thank you for pointing me to the One Girl, Two Beakers channel. She's absolutely, like, and she's not a colleague of you, is she? Because it's absolutely amazing to see her, like, you know, do what she does. And the whole backstory that she has, that she didn't really do anything like Twitch or whatever, and that she got on here and got like sort of like insta-famous almost. I do like that, you know, so like cool backstory and nice person, so thank you for pointing me out to her. I did break a part that cost $150. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not too much, right? But it's still money, right? Lekker, hè? Mmm. Yum, 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 yum. Zit je papa te schoppen, toch? Happy? No, I was just there when she suddenly got famous and got modded because she couldn't keep up with the band. Ah, okay. Really, bands? Like, were there people being like, I don't get that. Like, if you know what the thing is, if you as a girl on Twitter would be like you know, like, well, we all know the ones that I'm talking about, right? The ones that skimpy clothes, you know, trying to get views for that, and specifically that, and then act like, no, I'm just dancing. No, you don't, you know. Those people get a lot of trolls and like stuff in their channel, and I think that's like, it's still not okay, but I think it's to be expected. But with a scientist, really? Like, do they get maybe trolls, right? That just, you know, troll around. The world is a weird place. I would think of all the places on Twitch, like a science channel would not be the place to troll, right? But then again, maybe it exactly is because it's different. Lots of trolls, yeah. I mean, it's funny if you look at it from like an outside of Twitch perspective. If you think back to like high school, like who were the ones who were bullied? Like the nerds, right? Like the people that actually like cared about getting an education and all that. Those were the ones that got bullied and heckled and everything. And now we're on Twitch, and it's basically the same shit. You know, the people that are either interesting because they're smart or because they have an interesting field of education or interesting field of work, they instantly get trolled like, "Oh, you're smart and that's stupid." It's just high school all over. Like, not even high school, like primary school all over again. It's amazing, right? Like, we evolved as a species. It's 2019, and here we are doing the same thing, but online because, you know, the anonymity of the internet. It's amazing. You happy? Is he? Lekker, hè? I have a feeling he's starting to get a little tired. He was up a little earlier today, so it was to be expected. But yeah, I always firmly believed in the fact that you shouldn't bully a nerd because, you know, later on in life you'll pay your salary. I never was part of the nerds per se, but I was, you know, because I love to hang out with them because they're, you know, smart and they're funny, and I love their sense of, like, the things that they liked, I like too. I like gaming, I like stuff like fantasy and all that, you know, I loved IT. So I was usually with them. I wasn't really part of them, but I enjoyed being around them. Maybe that did make me a nerd after all. It was just, I preferred that to what, the jocks or whatever. I was never a sporty guy. I also hung out a lot with the goth people. I never did the black clothing, black hair, whatever. But like floating around the school hallways, just pretending to not give a fuck about life. I enjoyed that. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you, I might be moving because of a friend of mine called me about a job at a company that he started. Really? Where are you moving to, ISO? Like within the States? Wat is dat? Een lamp, hè? Zo. Is dat een lamp? Hey. Hey. Wil je nog een hapje of ben je klaar? Klaar? Ben je klaar? Oh, toch. He does metal machining and engineering consulting for the National Labs here. Back to Albuquerque, yeah, within the same state. Okay, cool. So that means that you're actually also like going to move houses then, to live closer over there. Is er? Yes, ijs. I'm just quickly going to put him in front of the television. He can watch television for like 10 minutes and then he has to go to bed. So he's going to watch television for a second. I'll be right back. There we go. So Albuquerque. So I mean, yeah, this is me just being, you know, in another country, right? Like the Netherlands is. I don't know if you've ever been to the Netherlands, ISO. I never asked. But in the Netherlands, everything is so close to each other that if I go from like the ocean side to the border of Germany, which would be the other side of the country, and I wouldn't hit traffic. I think I can clear that in 3 hours. Then I'm cross country. Top down might take a little longer, but that's maybe like an hour. So if I go from all the way to Friesland to Limburg, which is all the way down, maybe 4 hours, 4.5 maybe. That's it. And then you're cross country. So it's really small over here. So most people, they don't really allocate to their work unless it's really far away. But if you live like in the center of the country and you get a job in the capital, you just live in the center of the country. That's perfectly fine because, you know, that's an hour drive maybe. So why would you move, right? There we go. Not for sure yet. I'm going to go up in a few weeks to talk to him in person. I hadn't talked to him in years, so it made me happy. He remembered me and thought it would be good for this. Yeah, it's nice when people remember you for that, right? Going to sell my house here, which will be stressful, I can imagine. Yeah, I just got my shop to where it's usable, but the job is pretty much exactly what I want to do, and that's most important. 5 hours away from Albuquerque, 8 hours to the corner of the state. Yeah, no, I mean 5 hours, and that's single trip, I imagine, right? So that's 10-hour drive for like an 8-hour work day. No, it's not gonna work. I get that. But that's funny, like work-wise then we're both in transition more or less. I don't know if I told you, but I work in content management, right? So I enjoy content management. Like it's a field of expertise which I find highly interesting. I just don't find it fun, if you will. Like, interesting is good enough, right? But I enjoy something that is fun as well. And if I'm looking back on the last couple of years, because the assignment that I currently have, I'm currently working at a national bank. I work for a consultancy firm, but I'm employed at a Dutch bank at the moment. And that assignment will end coming Friday. So I've been there for 3 years. It's about time that the assignment ends. And if I look back on the last 3 years, what I noticed is the things that I love most is the coaching that I did of a couple of colleagues, the Scrum Master role, so that's also like a coaching role. I enjoyed that, just helping people, and that is not my specialty, like per se, but I noticed that I'm intrinsically good at it. Like it comes from within, and it's just, you know, it's easy, and I notice I'm good at it, and it gives me a good vibe. When I do that, like during the day, then I go home feeling like I really accomplished something, right? So I'm considering actually switching to that, to become a full-time coach, and maybe like Scrum Master, maybe that's more or less the same field. And to maybe drop the content management part, because I find it interesting, but I don't get satisfaction out of that. Like I don't go home like, damn, you know, I made an impact today. Like, no, it's just work. So we'll see. Like, I'm not sure whether or not the transition is actually going to happen, but I have a strong feeling that it might, because it feels right. Yeah, I gotta live closer, but the shop is a little out of town, up in the mountains, which is super nice, and the rent isn't too expensive up in those mountains, so that's great. That sounds really cool. I think so too, yeah. And I would need some additional training and all that, because I'm not officially trained to be a coach. But it's just something that comes from within. I just notice that I'm good at it. So I want to get the papers to be able to actually do it. So for the coming month, I got a holiday trip to New York. And so it's going to be a bit of a broken month work-wise. So in between those, I'm actually going to talk to a couple of coaches within my own company and see like what kind of a training plan would be possible, and if my boss would be willing to support me in this, because, you know, that would help. I think he will be, because I have a very good connection with my manager. He'll probably be okay with it, but I need to get formal approval, and then we can actually start doing that. So we'll see where that brings us. Coffee. It's funny, right? Like if you, I don't know if you know the story, but like if you think about coffee and the way that that's, like we all drink coffee, right? Like almost every one of us. If you know how coffee came about, that's such a funny story. I don't know if you know, but back like around like 800 or something, like back like 1,000 years ago, basically. I'll mostly be machining and learning to program all the CNC machines to produce the ordered parts, even for the machines other machinists will operate, and possibly transition more into engineering. That's nice. That's nice. So that means like you have like a full spectrum job where you're busy with a whole section of the pie rather than just one nitpicky thing. I like that. So having like more control of everything. I'm out of coffee. You're just rubbing it in. Now, what the fun thing is back like 1,000 years ago, there was like a monastery somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I believe it was like Algeria or something. Where they had a monastery over there, and the monks noticed that the goats in the courtyard were acting like very energetic and bouncy and happy and all that. And they found out that that was because they were chewing on a certain berry, which was actually the coffee plant. And from there, it transitioned from chewing on it, because that's what the monks started doing it, and then it transitioned from chewing on it to roasting it, to grinding it, to making sort of like a tea from it, which we call coffee. So that's a whole transition, which is funny, because like it wouldn't be my first guess. If I would see like a berry out in the wild and I'd see that goats go crazy over it, my first reaction would be to stay the fuck away from it. But even if I would bring myself to try it out, like imagine going from that to, okay, let's burn it, then let's grind it, then let's pour hot water on it, and then drink it. Okay, that's an interesting transition, isn't it? Yeah, it's a startup, so he'll be doing everything, but he actually has good contracts already, unlike most startups. And that's really where most startups fail. Like, you know, you can have a wonderful idea. You can have, like, the best idea in the world. But if you don't have those contracts, you're gonna have a bad time. I've noticed this from the good perspective. When I was doing my thesis, when I was in university, I did a thesis at a company which was also a startup, and they had the same thing. They had they were starting up, but they had the contracts going. They were working in cloud computing, and they basically what they did is with cloud computing you always have like excess capacity. Like, you know, if you look at like Amazon, the Amazon servers, they run at like 80% capacity, right? So there's 20% reserve for when you need it, both in CPU and in memory, you know, storage and in memory. So you have like access that is not being used. What they did is, as a startup, they made contracts with Amazon, with Azure, with Microsoft, and a couple of others. They made contracts, and they said, okay, so we want to buy all those 20% that you have for like a really low price, because it's already been maintained, it's already been paid for by your original clients. We want to access those 20% if it's not used. You know, first client has first use rights. But if it's not being used, we want to concatenate that into one big cloud and resell that. And the only thing you need is volume. If you have a lot of volume, you can create a new cloud out of those little bits of clouds, because you're basically making like a leftover dinner with leftovers. You know, that's what you're doing, but then in cloud computing. So all you need is contracts, and they had the contracts down. And there were a couple of other startups that were trying the same thing, and they didn't nail the contracts. And because of that, they failed. This company went, like, the owner went to become a millionaire within 3 months. That's amazing, right? So it was an interesting startup, and they won because of the contracting. But also the founder is super smart, which helps with the startup, yeah. And there's a ton I can learn from him. He's a mechanical engineer, but also basically a metallurgist. Oh, that's like, yeah, okay, so you're adept at casting. Because when I knew him, he was working at a metal 3D printing company. That's cool. I only know 3D printing with plastic, so that's cool. Metal 3D printing. That's gonna be hard though, because then you need to keep the metal at a certain temperature and then start printing it quickly. That's an interesting technique, I imagine. The metal 3D printing was very expensive, I can imagine. It used metal powder and okay, of course. Still interesting. Like, you use metal powder and then just quickly, like, you know, laser it to like superheat it and then like mold it into place. It's an interesting technique though. Like, and I like the thought process behind that, because plastic 3D printing, I sort of get that, because you take molten plastic and then you just make something out of it. I get that. But then to think, okay, so wait, so if we just pour some metal dust somewhere and I put a laser over it, we can also do it with metal. That's an interesting thought process, isn't it? I do like that. Let's see. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's gonna go to bed in about 5 minutes. And he needs to get his afternoon sleep, which is great, because then I have like a couple of hours for myself as well to just do nothing. Thin layer of metal powder gets spread over a plate, and the laser welds the spot that will be the part. But it's an interesting concept. You know, thinking of that is half the work. But you know, I mean, that wouldn't be something that I would think of. Like, I'm not in the metal industry, of course, but I wouldn't think of that. So I always like that people have that eureka moment, like, hey, we're gonna do that, you know? Also, I just noticed, I need one more follower, and then we have 500 followers. That's amazing. If we have one more, then, oh god, I need to think something that I'm gonna do for 500 followers. Will you have a suggestion, ISO? You always come with the best suggestions, so... I don't really want to do like a 24-hour stream, but maybe something, maybe a giveaway or something. I'm unfollow. 498. Dang it. The company was making monitoring software and hardware to make sure the print was strong while still printing. So they basically made the whole chain, and that's usually smart if it's something really new, right? If it's emerging technology, might as well have a hand in the whole process rather than like giving everything to other parties and then screwing up majorly because other people don't care. They just want money. You know, if you love what you do, try to keep a hand in everything that you do. That's smart, especially when it's still like small time. Like when you get bigger, you're forced to do to work together with other companies. But when you're small, keep a hand in it on all sides. That's the way to do it. Yeah. It's 10 past noon, so I think I'm gonna go bring my baby boy to bed because you know he needs to sleep, and he's starting to sit like that in his chair, so he needs some sleep. I believe it's only us two at the moment, ISO. Still, if you don't mind, I'm gonna do a quick raid. Just don't know to who. Let's see who's out there. Or we could do the Game Fox. She usually, like, if she's done before I am, then she usually raids me during lunchtime. So I'll give her one back. I hope to see you again soon, ISO, and I do wish you good luck with the possible transition. When is that going to happen? Is it like today or like soon? Because you keep me posted. I'd be interested to hear what comes out of it. Alright, there we go. Alrighty, guys, I will see you tonight with some more gaming. Probably, possibly some Dead by Daylight, but I might just be playing something else, we'll see. I'll talk to him in a couple of weeks in person, like January, February, to actually move. Alright, well, keep me posted if anything changes with that, because I'd be very interested to hear. Let's go raid the Game Fox, say hi to her for me, and I hope to see you guys again tonight.